Ben Rauch, Jelly Labs AG. Ben will be chairing the discussion today. We also have Peter Grosskopf, Unstoppable Finance and Ultimate. We have James Brownlee representing Harbour, and Łukasz Żeligowski, Kanga. Finally, we have Sheraz Ahmed representing Storm Partners. I certainly hope all our speakers are here and ready. If not, the last ones will be joining last minute. Gentlemen, are you ready? Please join me on the stage. And let's welcome our speakers with applause. Oh, we have the...
Thank you.
We have the brave chair of the discussion joining me now. Choose the seat, make yourself comfortable, Ben.
Two people right now, but
yes, I thought so, because we are starting a little early. But as I said, that gives you a little extra time, gentlemen. And what that means also is, well, the missing speakers will be joining you as soon as they turn up in the room. Always a good practice to be a little ahead of time.
we give our best to get the conversation going. So thanks everybody for joining. Welcome from my side. Happy to have so many people listening in. I think we have a really exciting topic, and a topic that is more relevant than ever, and it will become even more relevant, which is about regulation, about DeFi and all of this. And we have a great panelist. We're missing two people, but I think this will be fixed soon. So I would like to start to give you guys the chance to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background and what you're working on, and then we kick it off from there. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm James Brownlee. I'm the co-founder of Harbour. We're a Web3 native neobank and payments app, and we're based in the UK, but we are planning on moving to the EU soon. So my career is very pertinent to us at the moment. Personally, my background is I'm a former lawyer, or a recovering lawyer, as I put it. I spent 10 years as a banking lawyer in the city in London. So I'm very keenly following the developments in regulation as it applies to DeFi and crypto more generally. And I think it's one of the really important factors in the continuing growth of the space.
Ben, it looks like before you finish with introductions, all our speakers should be on stage.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think we're just missing one now. So I think until we're at the last seat, we're complete. So, Peter.
All right, then I go next. Hi, I'm Peter. I'm originally a tech guy who ended up working in the fintech industry. So started my career building a software development company, came to Berlin 10 years ago now, and started working in a company builder that moved into the fintech space, called FinLeap. And then I was able to co-found Solaris Bank as a CTO, and that pretty much marked kind of my way in really going into the world of finance, especially also back in the days, 2016, got in connection with blockchain and really thought, okay, if it's possible to hold the bank in your pocket, so why continue building a bank, right? Obviously, the history, the past now showed us that there's like CeFi, there's DeFi, there's different like nuances when it comes to the usage of blockchain in different kind of organizations. But going forward, was able to help Börse Stuttgart kickstarting the regulated crypto exchange here in Germany, also building our own tech there. And today, I'm here as the co-founder and CTO at Unstoppable Finance. We built a very great to use Solana wallet, one of the most used in the Solana space, called Ultimate. Download it, try it out. But also with the mission to bring DeFi to the masses. So we really took a lot of attention to integrate with DeFi and make it really as easy as possible, also to bring it to the normies. But on that way, we also figured out that really reaching the masses is complicated. Yeah. Also because for many people, like in the outside crypto world, crypto assets are still very difficult to digest and to use and to understand. So reward assets these days become kind of an important topic, I think, for the whole industry and for the whole technology. And from our perspective, stablecoins are the first reward asset that really hit the masses. And therefore, we announced a few months ago that we're currently founding a bank from zero. So for me, it would be then the second bank. But yeah, so the second time you always do it better, right? And we want to serve the stablecoin industry and also position us kind as the bank that can deal with any kind of on-chain money, which is not only stable coins, there's also deposit tokens, CBDCs, and so on, but kind of acting as the gateway in between.
Thank you, Łukasz.
Okay, hi, my name is Łukasz Żeligowski. I'm co-founder and one of two executive directors of Kanga. Kanga is basically the crypto exchange. However, one of our strongest point is that we've got the biggest network of physical points where you can buy or sell crypto for cash. Right now, it's over 1,200 in 15 countries, as far as I remember. And we are in Europe, of course, but also in Asia and South America and Africa too. So quite widely expanded network. And yeah, I'm IT developer by heart. It's my main thing. However, I really like a finance industry, and this is my background. I worked in Frankfurt am Main, so I speak a little German, but I will not speak here right now. And yeah, I work for investment banking, so I've got a background in this area too. So I'm very happy that Kanga is the place where my skills can be used in many different ways, not only IT, which I really love, but also this financial thing.
Yeah, thank you guys. I think I take the chance as well to say a few words about myself until hopefully Sheraz is arriving. My name is Ben Rauch. I'm co-founder of Sheraz. It's a Liechtenstein-based company, and we're developing DeFi protocols, and we're at the moment also developing a DeFi ecosystem called Sheraz. The idea behind that is to combine the best of all worlds. So we are using protocols that have been battle proven, and we bring this all together on one platform. And we are also looking into this upcoming hype that I'm sure you have heard of, and I saw that there is actually a very interesting panelist later on where they talk about the real world assets. So that's also something we're exploring and bring this to DeFi based on the regulation we have to comply with, obviously. And yeah, I think that sums it up. So if you want to check it out, Sheliverse.org, have a look into that. So with that said, I think we just kick it off. I'm sure Sheraz will arrive at some point. I think looking at your guys' background, you're all more or less directly or indirectly involved in DeFi. You have projects working in DeFi. So what is your daily regulatory topic that you have to deal with? Is this something that is daily business for you? What part of your job is regulatory topics? Maybe James, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Yeah. So the nature of our product is that we integrate within the traditional financial system, issue bank accounts, integrate with payment systems, card networks, as well as interacting with public blockchains. So there is a lot of compliance overhead. We have licensing overhead. We have needed to, from the very beginning of our product journey, to develop a very detailed, robust compliance framework to deal with things like anti-money laundering, to have proper processes and procedures, the things that regulators want to see. Because we've done that from the very beginning of our journey, it is part of the fabric of how we operate the company. But it is part of every aspect of day-to-day decision-making, from how we onboard users to transaction monitoring to how we hire people and the things we need to look for. So it does have a very pervasive impact.
Interesting, yeah. Peter.
Yeah, so what I didn't say in my introduction is due to this past of building up regulated companies in a row, and also as a technical person, I always say, like I said, as a tech guy, you always want to understand the requirements, right? So you know these conversations with developers, so turn the button in a different color, so why? So why should I do this? So what's the purpose behind it? So please explain me what's the requirement, why we have to do this. And to me, so I got like very close to the regulatory requirements, because in the past it was always very simple to say like, hey, so we in former regulated companies, we did certain things the way we are doing it, and please do the same. But in the end, in the meanwhile, there was like cloud, there's blockchain, and there's like various technologies also hitting the finance space, AI also to like especially in the recent time, and this then in the end really needs creative interpretation of the existing rules and like mapping them to the new technology and really finding out, okay, so what is allowed and what is not allowed. And so this brought me kind of in the spot so that I also, and that's also as a response to the question, what's my relation to regulation? So first, that I do a lot of political work these days as well. So sitting in the advisory board of Ministry of Finance here in Germany, so which is like one angle to work towards also like the adoption of regulation in Germany, but also the European level becomes more important, also as we will learn during the panel here today. Also involving myself there, like giving feedback to like AML regulation, to MiCA back in the days, and TFR and so on, because I think so we're in the situation, so like regulation of course follows certain ideas, for example creating fair markets, protecting customers, and technology comes from the other direction, and we really need to make sure to make it match, and that's kind of where I involve myself, which is not directly related to the company I'm building, but I really believe so if regulation is adopted the right way, this does not only help us as a company, this helps the whole industry, and that's why we're doing this. And again, on a little bit more operative basis, so with the first product we built with Ultimate, so as a company being formed in Germany, of course, so we had to kind of align with BaFin here, what kind of services are regulated ones that we offer, and which ones are kind of free to offer in an unregulated way. So that was one task that we did, kind of going into the interaction and discussing, and then coming to a conclusion. And now with the new company, so building up a bank, so of course heavily involved in contributing to the license application on various kinds, because you don't want to rely on, people who build regulated systems in the past and do it the same way. So we really want to interpret kind of the space for the technology in a really also progressive way, and therefore it's important to also involve really in the nitty-gritty of the license formation.
Okay, I feel like a pirate right now. I don't believe in regulations. I think that regulations are always bad. And regulations are done by the people who don't want to help others. They just want to keep power and control. And this is what we can see in states when we look on Gary Gensler and the SEC Commission, how they work and what they achieve, what they are doing. They are doing rather mess than help. And I think the same is in European Union, exactly the same problem. And the officers, they don't understand, they don't know how it works, they just want to be in control, in charge. This is how the regulations work. So in Kanga we believe in freedom, and we believe that money belongs to the owner, not to the officers, not to the clerks. So this is our main motto. We really think that the people knows better what to do with their money than the others. And I don't like when others are telling me what I can do with my money. So this is the main thing. However, we know that we are not living on the lonely planet. We have to adopt somehow the regulations. However, we are trying to be legal, strict, in the way that is required. For example, the MiCA, which is coming in European Union, of course, we are working to fulfill all the requirements. However, we are doing in the way that first we think about the freedom and our users, and then we rather think about these regulations. And as Peter said, the most important for us is to answer the question what they wanted to achieve, why that regulations exist, and what they want from us. This is the most important. Yeah? So we are trying to find a way which doesn't harm our users, but let us give us possibility to be legal and fulfill all the requirements.
Peter, you look like you want to say something about
yeah, exactly. So, thanks for putting a little bit oil in the fire. But I must admit that I also came from a comparable direction back in the days, because I really tried to understand, okay, why is there regulation? What is it for? And kind of what I learned for myself, or maybe learn, accept, choose the right word for yourself, is that kind of the core idea, just in general, is, I think, followable. So having fair markets and also just the customers that are not able to protect themselves of themselves, right? Whatever, that are too greedy and like betting all their money on all at once. So I think there's something with it, kind of like, at least like on a principle base, yeah. So like the core principles, business continuity management, making sure that like the customers' funds are not misused. So look at FTX and so on. I think like these core principles, I think we can, or maybe most of us can align to those. But then it's the question, how are they implemented? And there I can follow your idea as well, because so if it comes to for example, so I think like especially blockchain and decentralization comes with a paradigm shift, and I think to deal with this paradigm shift, this is something which is very difficult for regulators that were used to do things in a certain way, and that's at least my try, like in the discussion, to really help them understanding this paradigm shift, that self custody can really fix systemically fix the problem of misusage of customers' funds on a centralized exchange, right? Because I own it. That's my money. I have the full control, and blockchains as a public infrastructure, also with like an audit trail which is public. I think there's like a lot of benefit that would even make the principles of regulation much better, more technical, less kind of bound to also whatever kind of like people's influence and so on. So just make it technical. And I think this is where we need to head to really apply the technology the right way, and we would get some sort of regulation out of the box.
Yeah. Just to build on that, and so I agree 100%. There's good regulation and there's bad regulation, and poorly applied regulation is a really bad thing, both for consumers and for industries as a whole. And I do believe that. But I think there is an inevitability about regulation within certain parts of this space, and I think we've got a once in a generation chance to input into and shape that regulation and make sure that the form it takes is complementary and can actually help support the crypto ecosystem rather than detract from it. And I think the topic of the discussion is DeFi, and that's a classic example of where regulation done wrongly could have a detrimental impact on the way that market is formed, and the regulator needs to be really careful about how they approach that. But we as an industry need to have the tools and have the discussion to be able to give them the information they need to write good regulation.
Yeah, I think you brought up great points. I think we have to admit that the crypto industry has a history of failing, and I think it is understandable that regulators want to look into this, because, I mean, a few things happened that obviously didn't shine the best light on what the industry should be. But yeah, the moment when it becomes over-regulated and people don't understand how the products work, but still try to apply some rules, then it becomes obviously very tricky for companies, and we see this ourselves, to comply with all these rules. But I mean, regulation is something I think is inevitable, and it will come. And with that said, we have a wildcard joiner on stage.
Yes, so sorry guys, it's very unorthodox, but I'm a dear colleague of Sheraz Ahmed that actually had a problem really before the panel, so I'm joining on his behalf. Sorry for the delay, but it was basically 10 minutes ago that they told me.
No, all good. We're good at improvising here. So maybe you give a little bit, like a very short introduction to yourself and to what you guys are doing.
Sure. So I'm a partner of Storm as Sheraz. Storm is a Swiss-based consulting firm. We advise Web3 projects, layer 1, layer 2, DeFi platforms, DAOs, and so on. I'm in charge of the legal and compliance department, so I'm a lawyer. very happy to speak about upcoming regulation.
Perfect. That's a quick one. I like that. So I would say let's direct this conversation a little bit more towards DeFi. We talked a lot about regulation in general and banking and stuff. I would like to talk a little bit more about DeFi, especially under the upcoming MiCA regulation, since we're here in Berlin and in the heart of Europe. I would like to ask you guys, in MiCA, I mean, I read through it. As far as I can understand, I have no legal background, but is this specifically mentioned there that fully decentralized projects are not covered with the rules of MiCA? So my question would be to the round, what is your interpretation of a project being fully decentralized? Is there something you can share from your experience with regulators? I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's not set in stone yet what that means, and apparently there will be shades of decentralization, but I would like to hear your guys' view on that. What you think a fully decentralized project should look like, or what the regulator thinks it should be. So maybe we start at the end.
Okay, thank you. It's a topic on which we did a lot of work in Switzerland with FINMA, but also with our clients. And actually, we arrived to a pretty solidified definition. So the point is that in a DeFi platform, the platform needs to be only an interface that enables users to access and use smart contracts that are publicly available, so that theoretically, a user that is very tech savvy could do the same things without using the interface. But of course, the interface is there to facilitate certain transactions. And it's necessary that the platform operator is never a counterparty in the transactions. The transactions are only between users of that platform. The platform operator never touches the funds. The transactions are solely between users. And if the platform is operated this way, then the platform operator is solely a technological service provider, is not a financial intermediary, is not a financial service provider. And this has been acknowledged in certain cases by FINMA. There are some DeFi platforms that obtained in Switzerland, they are famous, it's called no action letter. It's basically a ruling that you do with the regulator, but also in other jurisdictions as well. So with MiCA, we have to see what's the opinion of the European regulations, of the European regulators. Of course, the enforcement part is always the most important one, but I'm quite confident that if we apply the same logic, we'll get to the same result.
Okay, we have to remember that there are 2 points of view. First, when we think about DeFi and we ask people what they know about DeFi and what they think what DeFi is, they think that DeFi is something decentralized, that there is no one behind the scene, that there is no one company which rules everything, and that's a myth. There is always one company, there is always someone who manage the code, who manage the contracts. We could see this on the Uniswap, right? There was a Uniswap decentralized exchange. Yes, it's so free and no one can do anything bad, but suddenly the SEC was telling, okay, remove these tokens. And after, I don't remember, hours, maybe days later, the tokens were removed from Uniswap without asking the community, without asking anyone. Do we remove or not? So there is always one actor behind the DeFi. And I don't believe in DeFi the way that there is decentralized and managed by community. It will never work. There will be always an owner of the domain, there will be owner of the software, someone who deployed the contract or whatever. So when we look from that perspective, there is no real DeFi. DeFi means rather transparent. We could say this because we know how it works. We know the code, we know the funds, if they are touched by someone or moved. This is what we can see. So DeFi means rather, it's not, the funds are safe. This way for me is okay. But DeFi from the legal perspective is something, exactly what you said, that no one is touching the funds, and there is always thinking that there is a company behind the DeFi, yeah? Always. And MiCA is, or the regulations are trying to solve the problem that the DeFi are something secret, and they just are trying to remove this secret from DeFi, and I'm not sure that it will be working, because other case that no one can forbid me to deploy a contract. No one can say, okay, to the other users, you cannot use this contract. But they are trying to do this, and on the end, we've got a really mess. This is my point of view, that the regulations which will be coming, they will be trying to, we used to say that they are trying to catch the rabbit, but the game is not to catch the rabbit, but to running him. So it is never-ending story. The people will be trying to regulate this market, but there will always some holes or some gray area, and it will never ever happen. But it will be hard to manage the things.
Yeah, so from my perspective, there's two aspects concerning me regarding DeFi and MiCA regulation. So the first one, also talking about the decentralization, or like this terminology of fully decentralized. I think in the meanwhile, there's already some movements to clarify this. I think there was like an ESMA feedback kind of already putting a little bit of light into the whole discussion. But there's also touch points that I had in the past. For example, I think 2 months ago, there was the last BaFin tech. So like from the German regulator, they do like a every 2 years like a conference, so this topic MiCA implementation was obviously also one of the important ones of that issue, and so they like BaFin already positioned in a way that they see kind of like if there is like a small number of developers, if they're looking at the control, like who has control to change something, but also who is the beneficial owner behind something. Yeah, so who really benefits from letting it work, and how centralized and how widely spread this is, and I think this will be the kind of the parameters that regulators will look towards. And I think like even in the regulatory discussion in the European Union, there's kind of crypto projects that are sufficiently decentralized, even in regulators' views, for example, Bitcoin, because there's almost like nobody owning it. There's no like real beneficiary behind it. So like Satoshi disappeared, so the funds are not moved. So this kind of like gives this stroke of really being at least sufficiently decentralized. But I think also, as you mentioned, so let's be really transparent here. So many DeFi projects are built around like a small amount of developers, and like with a lot of control, getting rich quick, and so on, and really also throwing a little bit our principles overboard, because so also when we're talking about protocols, let's compare to like a protocol which is here for decades, and it's the HTTP protocol. Who's monetizing the HTTP protocol? Nobody, because it's an open source technology, can be used by anyone, it's integrated everywhere, and nobody benefits from it. And I think with DeFi, so as it's constructed right now, we won't get as close to this. But I think so. So if we want to be fully decentralized, or at least sufficiently fully decentralized, we at least need to take into account that kind of after building up a protocol, kind of in phase one, we need to make sure really to decentralize ownership, beneficial ownership, and so on, because otherwise, I'm pretty sure also with relation to what BaFin said, and they said also that they involve themselves in Financial Stability Board and kind of like putting their opinion there. Germany is not an unimportant country in the world, so I think things are moving in that direction. And the second aspect that I wanted to mention, which is not in relation to the fully decentralized, but also what many people ignore, it's in the end, also in DeFi space, we have different roles. So there's the protocols, okay, I talked about it, but there's also the front ends. And what's the role of the front ends? And so as I mentioned in my introduction, when talking about also us with Ultimate being in contact with BaFin, BaFin kind of made like a reference case on us that also the kind of creating a link between like a user and like a pool to trade against, that this is already investment brokerage, and posting their opinion also towards the European regulator. I think it's very likely, but I'm not a lawyer. Hopefully, there's lawyers here in the audience working for crypto projects, also in interaction with regulators and proving me wrong here. But so at least my hunch is that front ends also very likely will slip into MiCA regulation once they're kind of linking the user to crypto assets, which are kind of covered in the MiCA regulation, and that's kind of cryptocurrency, stablecoins, and all that stuff.
Maybe a follow-up question to this, because it's very interesting and I'm curious as well. The front-end topic, I've been following this, and there have also been discussions around, is it enough to have only one front end for an ecosystem, or is this considered centralized, or what is it? I think there are still ongoing discussions around this. But so you're basically saying that everybody that runs a front end will potentially need a financial license in the future. Is that correct?
Well, so this could go in this direction. So I tried to kind of like get feedback on this also when talking to my contacts like in the European space and like working closely with like people from the European Parliament. But in the end, as also like MiCA is a regulation, so it will be implemented with like the local laws, and so we have like 100% certainty like in the interaction when we kind of interacted with BaFin, so that they posted this opinion. They even published it on their website 6 weeks ago. So I think this is a fact, and I think this is and also if we really try to look from a different perspective on it. So if I sign up with a centralized exchange and I buy a Bitcoin, so this is investment brokerage. So when I sign up with like a website, and then I can buy Bitcoin over there, and I'm paying a fee to that front end. So where's the difference? So there's some technical difference, but I think the interpretation is narrowing.
Does the fee matter? Does the fee matter? Because you just specifically mentioned fee. So if you're running a front end without charging a fee, is this a different story then?
Yeah, well, so there's so BaFin also when they talked about it at BaFin Tech, they were clarifying a little bit. So for example, if somebody's earning a fee, so that's like an indicator for kind of like providing a service. Yeah, so I think that's pretty obvious. But also if you simplify something, yeah. So if the user kind of like looks for the pool, identifies what's the kind of the right price, and kind of picks, or like for example to make it a little bit more obvious, if there's like a, let's say like a central order book kind of exchange on like on chain, and I kind of like pick the order that I want to match against myself. So this is kind of interacting kind of with a raw protocol, and the user is kind of doing the whole math. But if I provide a front end where I simplify kind of getting access to it, make it very easy, I earn a fee with that, like as a broker. And if I really simplify the things, so that's what BaFin literally said at BaFin Tech, that they consider kind of considering that this could be like a offering that needs to be regulated as a broker.
Just coming in on that, I think it's a very good point that front ends have the highest risk of being pulled into MiCA, and I think there's another aspect of it, which is, if I'm a retail user, who am I relying on to give me good information about the DeFi protocol I'm about to interact with, how it works, what the risks are, who's responsible for the accuracy of the white paper, who's responsible for telling me that the yields that I'm expecting are correctly described? And I think that responsibility is going to be put on the front end applications. And I think the regulator is going to want that responsibility to have recourse. There needs to be someone who can be sued if they do that wrong. And that will necessitate a centralized entity. And then if you're a centralized entity, then you'll be pulled into MiCA. And I think we've seen something very similar happening in the UK with the financial promotions regime, where it wasn't designed to prevent DeFi front ends from being able to offer services to UK consumers, but it had that effect because the nature of the obligation was such that really only a centralized front end can actually kind of adhere to the obligations. And I think that's a risk. And going back to the point about the regulator needs to be very careful, and we need give the right information to regulators to write these rules properly, so they don't fall down these rabbit holes and inadvertently you come to an end solution which isn't right.
But just to add one silver lining, because we're talking about DeFi regulation, like DeFi is not only trading, right? And I think so if it's about like trading of crypto assets, I think this is very likely that this gets matched like against MiCA rules very easily. But kind of DeFi is not considered offering financial services. Yeah, so there's no regulation that covers this on the European level, and therefore, so if you give access to a staking pool or something like that, so this is like a completely different math, and I think so there it's really then kind of okay, is it decentralized, is it not decentralized, does this somehow relate to the crypto services that are listed in the MiCA regulation? No. I'm pretty sure that this kind of will be the, let's say, kind of like the loophole as of now. But so after the next elections in the European Parliament, kind of like first half of next year, so there has already been named that kind of also looking into really DeFi specific regulation, that this should become a topic. Where I don't believe that that there will be something digestible within years, because this is like super complicated. But yeah, so I think the kind of like the space is narrowing, and the regulators kind of are picking up.
So, sorry, Łukasz, I would like to look into the future a little bit. When MiCA becomes binding end of 24, obviously, potentially the next step will be to define what is fully decentralized, what is it. So what will, like, from your experience, what do you think will happen after that? Like when MiCA becomes binding end of 24, what do DeFi projects have to look into? Like what is your expectation on the next steps? I think then there need to be some better description of like what fully decentralized is, what are the shades of that, and what do people or projects have to do to comply with the rules? So what do you think will happen next?
I would say quickly, I believe that nothing happens, really, because the regulations, even the discussion which we've got, shows that this is really impossible to regulate. Of course, we first have to answer the question, why do we need that regulations? Why? Because I don't know why. We can say, okay, the people who offers the front end, they are responsible for something, doesn't matter what, and because they take a fee, they have a specific license. Okay, good idea, but what happened when I create front end? I put it on the GitHub for free without any license. Anyone can use it. Who has to have a license? Who is responsible for it? No one. And we see that kind of regulations really are not needed. People used to live without regulations for hundreds, and there was no regulations, and they could live, could earn money and prosper without any problem. Why do we think that we need any regulations? This is really what I can't understand, that we forgot about being free.
Yeah, I think you have a great point. I think most of us would agree to that.
Thank you.
Life would be way easier without regulations in DeFi, but I think we have to face the truth, and there is a movement that.
Yeah, but tell me, okay, let's MiCA happens. We've got that regulations, and I deploy the contract on Ethereum, and I also create the front end, which works for free. What MiCA means for me? Nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
so how other companies can compete with me? They have to fulfill some crazy requirements, and I'm nearly sure that people will choose to use my service than the other companies.
I think there is a component that to most DeFi project that comprises of more than just the front end. It's like, how does the governance work? How are the tokens distributed? So basically, you're running a front end on multiple protocols, and there are many questions I think that have to be asked. Not only who's running the front end and what does that imply, but also what are the implications of how does the governance work? Is there an entity behind that project that has admin rights or kill switches or whatever? I mean, we've seen this with even the biggest projects like Uniswap. They can take away tokens. I mean, just from the front end, but still, I mean, the front end is something that, to my knowledge, is currently not possible to decentralize in a way, because somebody needs to run the website and somebody needs to host it. So there is an entity for that.
Well, you so to just also respond to your example. Also first, so I'm not saying kind of yeah, we need to have like more regulation and more, and kind of like until we can't breathe anymore. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm just like reflecting what is there and trying to interpret it, and also just interpret it also like in a, let's say, worst, average and best case scenario, because I think also when being an entrepreneur, you always need to keep like also the worst case scenario in mind and see what you can do, so you can involve yourself and try to shape regulation in a different direction, so on. And that's my position here. But so you mentioned it right. So like if you would provide a front end on GitHub, people download it and kind of like use it themselves, I think that changes the situation, because you're responsible yourself. And to give you another example, kind of so with Linux, yeah. So you download Linux a distribution and you open a web server. Okay, so if you do it for your own, you're responsible for the security yourself. You need to install the patches, monitor, blah blah blah, so to make sure it gets not vulnerated. So if you provide it as a service to somebody else, you have responsibilities. And I think so. Just and this is not nowhere written like in any regulation and so on. But this is just what I kind of my mental model that I started to work with. So who's providing the service? And I think if you provide kind of code that people instantiate themselves and run it themselves, so they're responsible. But kind of I think when it comes to a smart contract, which lives on chain and somebody put it there. And signed the transaction to put it there. And this is kind of where I still kind of really I'm really stuck in the middle. So does this already mean kind of like somebody deployed it and is like responsible for running it? Or is this kind of like putting code in GitHub? And I think, yeah, I think it's not comparable 100% to putting code in GitHub, and that's kind of I think where we struggle as a community, but also where the regulators struggle. And I think so we need to see this like in the worst, best, and average case scenario. I think the worst case scenario can be that regulators come to the conclusion, okay, somebody deployed it, so this person is responsible, and then they try to fine you.
If I may interject, so. You touched a good point. So is there a service, is there not a service? But actually from the legal point of view, the most important thing is what type of service it is. Is it a technological service? Is it a financial service? And this depends on what you were saying before, on how the service is structured. Is there a kill switch? Is there a possibility for me that I'm the platform operator to appropriate of the funds of the user? Like from a technical point of view, can I do that or not? The fact that this possibility exists or not determines also the legal qualification of the project. In the example you were making, that is very similar to what I was saying in the beginning. If you publish all the code on GitHub and then you build the front end, but actually any person could go on GitHub and build another front end, or maybe not even build a front end, just use it themselves because they want to use it. In this case, in my opinion, if you build the front end, the service you are providing by building that front end and allowing the usage of that front end is not a financial service, it's a technological service. There is no touch point with financial sector, there is no financial intermediation, there is no... So, and this is actually what we discussed with FINMA in Switzerland as well. And then it will come to the European regulator. So to go back to your last question, so what will happen when MiCA enters into force? Court cases. So if BaFin has this very restrictive opinion, they will start going after whoever they can catch, because there is also the problem of anonymity and so on. But maybe they can catch someone that is a founder of a DeFi project in Germany. They do an enforcement action. This person goes to court, and then there will be a German court that needs to interpret the regulation and say, this is a financial service or not? Is this person allowed to do this or not? And they will answer based on the and they need to answer based on the specific characteristics of that project. So maybe one important takeaway that we need to give is there is no answer for DeFi in general. It depends how you structure a certain DeFi project. Is it really open, more than decentralized, we could say open in terms of open source. The code is open for everyone. It's transparent, it's available. Everybody could deploy it or not.
Yeah.
And what is the power of the platform operator?
Yeah, I think that it's very difficult to put everything into one box and say this is how it's going to look, because everything is a little bit different and every platform, every ecosystem works in a different way. But I think time will tell how authorities will interpret the term decentralized and what they will make out of it. I think there will be very interesting times ahead to see where this is going. I see the timer running. We have 10 seconds left. So, but what I would like to do to finish off, I hope this is okay. I would like to give everybody 10 seconds. I think. Do you think regulations is intrinsically something that could bring positive momentum to the industry, especially looking at the mainstream narrative on crypto, which I feel is still very negative focused because of talking about scams? And I mean, I heard recently in the German radio that it's bad for the environment, and it's overgeneralized that everything is a scam and everything is bad. So what is your take on it? Maybe everybody 10 seconds, and then we finish it off. Do you think there is a net benefit on regulation, especially when it comes to MiCA? And what could there be? But let's keep it short. Otherwise, probably we get thrown off the stage.
If you want to start very quickly, so I'm a lawyer, super biased opinion. So regulation can be positive. Regulation comes in particular in the financial sector after scandals. This is how it was built. We have been having some scandals. To the extent that regulation can avoid future scandals, it can be a good thing.
I'm opposite to this. I would say regulations are always bad, and they never ever solve any problem. We've got a very regulated market, the banking industry. Do we've got scandals? Yes, we've got many scandals. Yeah. Do we've got a money laundering? Yes, we've got. Banks are paying huge penalties. These penalties are going to whom? To governments. The government is happy because they've got more money. Yeah. So everyone is happy. Banks is happy because they earn money.
Let's
government
try to
is
keep
happy
it short so that
because they've got money and everyone is happy. I don't believe the regulations solve any problem, and I really think the freedom is something what will happen. The people will change their mind. They have to change because right now we are living on the huge restrictions.
I think many regulations are just a reaction to scandals that happen. So I would also cover your point. And who's causing the scandals? It's humans. Kind of humans manipulated whatever transactions are. Also the funds of customers. As you look at FTX or Wirecard, even built like a criminal organization. And what I really see as the future is that we use the technology to solve that. And from my perspective, having smart contracts, I deploy them. It's open source. It's publicly available, auditable by everyone, and kind of the computer is handling the process and not humans faking stuff. And I think this is what I really would love to see, kind of really building things in a way that we don't need regulation because it's already built in.
I'll be quick. I do think it's a net benefit for the space, especially if it's done right. And I think the regulator needs to be super careful around DeFi in particular. But if they get it right, I think it's a net benefit because it's a prerequisite for institutional money and capital flowing into the space, which I think is only a good thing.
Fantastic. I think let's finish it off with a round of applause to the great panelists. And thanks for listening in.
And applause for you, Ben, for chairing the discussion. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. Thank you and all the best.